Their pact would be complete.
Welcome everybody, this is Sicksinz Gaming here. It's been a while that I upload anything or done a review on anything, but this is something I felt like I needed to do. I enjoyed this game from the beginning to the end. So further ado, this is Battle Chasers Nightwar review, and currently I am playing this on the PlayStation 4 and as well as on the Nintendo Switch. Alright, so Battle Chasers. So for my understanding, this is based off the comic book series Battle Chasers by the illustrator of Joe Madureira, who was also served on the development team. But this is like a throwback if you played the Final Fantasy back in the 90s when at the time that's what was just taking over the world pretty much, I should say, or by storm during that time. Now the first thing you'll notice when you start the game is the comic book style and how good it looks. In my opinion, it looks amazing from the beginning to the end, especially when the cinematics roll in from when you boot up the game, and as well as the conversation between the characters when you go to the end, and as well as the ending. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, obviously, and how everything came to be. So good job, Airship Syndicate. Like seriously, it was pretty good. I give you a thumbs up on the art style here. Now, in terms of the core gameplay, this is a turn-based game, so the grinding is still very much at the forefront for the experience. So you have to be beyond patient with the game. I don't see why not. You would just want to breeze through it. The story is great, the illustration is really good, and the combat is the highlight of the game, if you ask me. Now, one thing I would like to point out about this game is do not have one character above all. That's a recipe for failure. The reason for that is because being that each character are individually leveled, we want to keep them balanced. And besides, it's a good teamwork aspect between three characters, depending on what your party setup is. The thing is, why are you doing this? The characters you have left behind in the end, they don't level up with you. Doesn't matter how far into the game, if you're max level, you're gonna have to go back into low level areas with those characters and level up individually. And again, you don't want to have one character above all. My favorite character so far was, if I remember correctly, his name was Orion. I think it was what that was. Yeah, I think it was Orion. I'm probably saying his name wrong, but I did not have him leveled up above all. Have you noticed here? Everybody here is level 27. Now, while you're in dungeons, you'll have this top view, similar like to Diablo or Pillars of Eternity, and one thing I do like about this as well, there's no random map. If you want to fight an enemy, it's on that cube, or I should say that Sicksinz area. You have a choice to fight them or not. Most of the time I just fight them for the experience. It just makes it, when you level up, to be easier time to fight the boss. But overall, the comic book style look to it, with the top view in terms of traveling, and then the turn-based battle, it's pretty, amazing if you ask me. Now, the battles in this game are always conducted between 3 of your party members and 1 to 3 enemies. Now, characters have both health gauges and mana gauges, which is the fairly standard in turn-based games like this, or any fantasy games, I should say. But there are 2 other bars that you definitely need to keep an eye on, and that's going to be the overcharge gauge and the burst gauge. Now, basically with the overcharge, that's more like it builds up when you use standard attacks. Or even attacks that doesn't use the mana and it actually successfully hit. Like if you decide to guard, that generates 10 charge, or with Gully or Calabretta, which is the big machine back there, even those regular attacks, it builds up that gauge. Then what that happens is that overcharge will be added to the mana gauge, and it gives a character like think of it as a mana reserve, but also depending on what character you have, with that overcharge will do extra damage. For example, like Garrison's Warblade, I remember. What it does is, it does drain the whole overcharge. I think I had it up to 60 at one point, and it dropped it down to 50. Actually, I'm sorry, it took away 50 and left me with 10 overcharge left. But it adds to the amount of damage you can do on Warblade, which is really good. Like sometimes I remember one time I was doing literally almost 1k damage. and that was basically early on. I would say probably maybe 10 hours into the game, which surprised me, and that's a pretty cool aspect, and it changes things up a little bit. Now let's talk about the next gauge. Now the gauge is called the burst gauge. If you notice on screen, on the bottom left corner, it will display the different levels of burst you have for your gauge. So you have 3 different levels, and basically it's level 1, 2, and 3. 3 doesn't mean it's the highest or it's the best. It depends on the situation that is given at hand. Now, how to gain this is basically every action you do, from healing to hitting the enemy, blocking, whatever the case may be, it will contribute to that gauge filling up to the max level. Now, you don't have to wait to the max level to use it. There's 1, 2, and 3, and it doesn't deplete everything. So, for example, if you max out to 3 gauges and you use, let's say, a level 1 burst level ability, that was going to end up taking only 1 and you still keep 2. Alright, so to be honest, it's very comparable to Final Fantasy VII's Limit Break for each character, but again, this is shared, so that's why it's a bit different, and it's pretty refreshing as well. Now, with this game, they emphasize on team synergy, and that means that keeping your entire team alive, it does drastically improve your chances of winning or beating, the battle, depending on what it is. But the issue I have with it is just doesn't have very many effective methods of healing your entire team. So if you're playing the game, Calibretto is a must to have in your team. Alright, if you want somebody to focus all on one person, Gully is like a must have. So depending who or the other person is, it could be Garrison, it could be I can't think of the name right now. Orion, I think that's his name. Seriously, I think that's the name. Or even have Red Monica on the team. She's really good, but I feel like you have to level them one by one. You can have 3 different people, don't get me wrong, but the likelihood of you surviving, depending where you're at, it's slim to none. And the reason for that, because you don't have many effective healing spells. Only 2 people, I believe, that has that. No, I'm lying, I'm sorry, Garrison does have it, but it's for self-healing. And I wish they'll have more effective methods of healing, whether it could be better pot potions, and I mean there are pots of healing, it's just not that great. That's why I feel like you have to have somebody in the team, which is Calibretto, or even I can't think of the old man's name. He's in there, he does healing, but he's more of a mage than anything else. Don't get me wrong, that didn't deter me from playing the game. I really did enjoy the game. It's just obviously the game is not perfect, and those are my minor my opinion, the minor flaws that it has in the game. Now, from outside, from the combat, as well as the traveling aspect, there are tons of dungeons to explore though, which also shift in terms of the layout. Once you complete it and try and tempt you to come back in for a hard difficulty, better loot, better armor, a chance of a better weapon. But naturally, there are a bunch of mini games in there, such as fishing and monster hunts. Like if you play Final Fantasy 15, there's actually little hunts. You will go to a certain area. Well, here it's the same aspect. One hunt, which is very interesting, where I have to buy a hat, trade in my hat at a different location to give to the guy. He'll give it back to me, which was for some people it was a nuisance. For me, I find it a little bit interesting, especially the backstory once you fight that hunt, and it'll explain to you what's going on. I won't spoil it. That intrigued me and I enjoyed it. And the fishing aspect, it was, while simple, it was fun. It wasn't something that I must do, but there are little mini achievements for you to be had in the game as well. Whether to complete all the hunts, whether to complete the bestiary. Now, that's another cool thing about this game that I like. That's part of the grind. If you keep defeating the same enemy over and over again, you will get a bonus, whether it could be 5% experience more, or 5% damage overall for everybody once you complete that bestiary for that specific monster, which I pretty much enjoyed. Now, it wasn't that bad the first time around. I believe I'm missing only 3. Yeah, about 3. So I'm going back in there for the grind and get that and try to platinum out. I need to finish the game again, because there is an achievement where if you beat the game on New Games Plus, that's one of the trophies you get. Alright, so the verdict. I would give this game a strong 8 out of 10, with great combat system, a decent story, an amazing art style with loads of content from fishing to complete your bestiaries, completing hunts, and always trying to grind out for better gear on these dungeons so you can switch to the difficulty. And I really did enjoy all that. So that being said, what do you guys think about this game? Drop a comment down below, like and subscribe if you haven't, and just give me your thoughts on it. I will say Sicksinz Gaming out, and I appreciate your contribution and as well as your support. Thank you guys.